I would like to call this meeting of the Site and Architecture Commission open. Let's see, roll call. That's what you do, right?
Yes, Commissioner White,
I'm here.
Commissioner Wade,
Here.
Commissioner Harrington,
Here.
Commissioner Lesniak, Chairperson Kroc.
Here.
Just to note, Commissioner Lesniak is not present.
Expect him?
I didn't hear, so I would just
Okay. Well,
continue. If he comes, great. If not, we've got a quorum.
okay. If there's the public orders of the day, do we have an orders of
No,
the day?
everything's as on the agenda.
Okay. Public comments. At this point, if anyone in the audience would like to come address the commission for any reason other than what is on the agenda, please do. Okay, no public comment. Approval of the minutes from the April 4th meeting. Anybody have anything to add, change, move that the minutes be approved?
I move that they be approved.
I second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Wasn't here, so.
Oh, okay, so, all right, so meetings are approved.
And just as a reminder, even if you're not at the meeting, you can listen to the recording if I've been able to successfully record it, and then be able to review the minutes. Yeah. So in the future.
Okay. So we're on to the projects, and I'll just give everybody a heads up on what happens. Is I will identify each project. Jeannie will give a report, a brief report. The applicant or representatives will come and have up to 5 minutes to speak about the project. Identify by stating your name. And then anyone from the public can come up and say anything about that particular project for up to 2 minutes. Then it will come back to us. We will discuss the project and then have a vote. So the first project, 17436 Pleasant View Avenue. Jeannie.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a request for a site development permit to add approximately 1,300 square feet to an existing 1,700 square foot single-story home. It includes approximately 306 square feet added to the front of the home, with the remaining 988 square feet added to the rear of the home. If you notice on the site plan, the house is a little askew on the property, so that, adds some additional challenges. But they also propose to include upgrades to the exterior finish with some stone veneer accent walls and smooth plaster finish with the like a red, I think it's a red tile roof. It meets all the development standards and is consistent with the city's guidelines. There have been a number of remodels along Pleasant View as well as El Rancho. Those are the two streets on the east side of Winchester. So this is pretty consistent with a lot of what we've been seeing with those the remodels happening on those homes. With that, I can answer any questions. The applicant's representative is here.
Or applicant representative like to come up and speak about the project, please.
Evening, my name is Scott Zazweta. I'm with D&Z Design. I represent the applicant. Myself and the applicant are here. If you have any questions, we worked well with Jeannie on going through and answering any questions that she had. We designed this to be within the guidelines of Monte Sereno, and we would like your approval this evening, if possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this project? All right, I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Any questions, comments?
So we have no materials board on this.
thought there was some materials.
Oh, yeah,
within. Yeah, 'cause this is a remodel, so technically we don't need a full materials board. They just need to,
Nice rendering.
yeah, the rendering's really nice. I guess that's as good as it gets.
And then behind that, there's an 8.5 by 11.
yeah.
Yeah, nice rendering. And have to commend you on the streetscape, very thorough. Yeah, that was nice.
Any questions, comments? Are you still?
Looks very consistent with the neighborhood,
Yeah, it's,
very attractive.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I know, it's awesome.
is really amazing, and that goes a long way to help you see what it's going to look like. Looks like a nice improvement. Agreed.
Well, with that,
Move that we approve it as is. Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved
Congrats.
unanimously with one.
You have to tell us what
Absent.
program they used for that rendering. What program did they use for the rendering? Pretty amazing.
That's all she does for a living.
Yeah,
3D.
very nice.
She goes out there, she takes a photograph of
Makes it,
exactly there.
and then
she
plugs it in.
fit it right in there. It looks like a photograph when she's done.
We'll tell her that's the reason your project.
Give her a bonus. All right, next project, 17951 Saratoga Los Gatos Road. Jeannie?
Yeah, this is again, a request for a site development permit to add a single-story addition to the rear of an existing two-story home just down the street here. The addition is approximately 890 square feet, and it'll extend to the rear well within the required side and rear setbacks. There are no trees proposed to be removed as this, and it'll be finished consistent with the existing exterior finishes of the home. That's about it on this one.
You don't have anybody to speak to it?
I don't,
Anyone here to speak to this project?
contractor's not here.
Okay. Well, does anyone want to talk about it?
This is a house, they're doing some significant upgrades, I think, to this home. They've come through previously for a couple different modifications. There's a little, it's kind of a little funky with that garage, so they're putting more of a covered carport and really, I think, kind of upgrading the exterior. So this is just to give them some additional living space to the rear. The lot's so narrow that you probably will not even perceive it's there.
Notice,
When you're
that
coming
was
by.
my thoughts.
So
with
long,
it.
it's a crazy deep lot.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. I mean, what it's going to be. And I'm not familiar with with where we go from here. Do we approve it with nobody talking about it? Is that?
You don't, they don't have to be here.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
especially on something like this,
How big,
Again.
yeah.
so.
It's just an extension of that wing.
Yeah, you don't see it at all. So I move that we approve it as submitted.
I'll
Second. Okay, you can second.
I'll second.
Okay?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Saratoga Los Gatos Road is approved as submitted. Now we have 18335 Lexington Drive, for which I must recuse myself, considering I live across the street. Hello, new neighbor. So I will hand the gavel in case these people get unruly.
Okay.
And
You can just go in the
don't
back
forget
there,
about me.
and we'll call you.
Bring you back.
That's okay.
I don't think,
It's okay,
it's
yeah,
fine.
we don't need them.
So, the project is 18335 Lexington Drive. The applicant requests approval of a site development permit to allow a 6-foot tall fence and vehicle gate within the front and side corner setbacks. The proposed fence is an open metal design, and the proposed gate includes stone columns and an open design with solid lower panels. The vehicle gate is set back an average of 25 feet from the front property line, with the closest distance being 15 feet. Pretty straightforward. Does anybody want to speak to the project, the owner, or do you want to say anything at this point in time?
Can you, we need you to come up
to the
here,
podium.
because it gets recorded.
I think Tony submitted
Yeah.
a second plan with different design for the door. So the bottom is like quite see-through. It's not solid. I hope it's fine, right?
Open with these rings? It's
Open, yeah, it's open. It's more solid. It's just pretty. I think
like the
just
photo here.
pretty.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Just the second, yes.
Okay, thanks for the clarification there.
So again, what you're looking at is really allowing that 6-foot height within the front setback along Lexington and the side corner along.
How does it meet
Lexington.
building code? Because you have to have enough room for a car to pull
Well,
in.
that
and it's-
20-foot, the 20-foot setback, that's not actually codified anything. That's more of a policy. And there's areas along here which it exceeds 25 feet. So
understand,
because
yeah.
there's an angle, that there is a significant area where it meets that 20-foot. I can't find in our Muni code anywhere where that 20 feet is codified. That's just a typical.
It's a
policy.
building code thing, not the muni
I
code.
don't think it's a building code.
I've
In
been
the
told that
building
it
code
is.
for, I don't know. But you have approved things like this, like up on
Overall,
Dave's in Winchester,
yeah.
because even though it wasn't 20 feet off of Dave's, there was
They get
enough
enough room to
drive.
pull off the
Yeah,
street.
and same thing here. So from a safety standpoint, and if, fire will probably require a Knox box for it to get in and stuff like that, so. It will get all of that, because they'll need electrical for the gate and stuff.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak to this?
So I would have one comment. On the plans they've submitted, there are 2 different designs of just the fencing part. And the upper one, I can't tell, look at me lifting my glasses, that the bottom one has anything along. So the top picture is really just more square and rectilinear, whereas that bottom one has those circles along the top, which is consistent with a design element in the gate. So, as staff, I would recommend that the actual fencing include that design element that they're showing in that bottom picture of those circles, which ties that fencing in with the gate design. Because this is going to be a significant amount of fencing.
yeah.
So it sounds, maybe a little nitpicky, but again, it's a lot of fencing, and I think their intent is to have it look nice. So I think that would be a nice way to kind of tie the fencing and the gate design together. Some of it you may not see because it'll be eventually behind some shrubbery, but
Is it the red line, is that the new fence? Yeah. That's,
yeah, if you see the red line, and then it'll come.
on the left-hand side of the plan, what is that? Is that a little pullout, or what's that little?
That's a parking, a pull into some parking for the accessory dwelling unit that's back there right
Is
now.
there a gate there, too?
They're proposing a pedestrian gate. There's some steps.
You can see it right
Going
now.
up there?
So there's no vehicular gate there?
No,
I got
the
it.
vehicular
to
gate is along the main Lexington Drive.
That's just a parking spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a little background for you guys. Lexington, you know this too, but we've seen a lot of stuff. We've allowed 6-foot tall fences on Lexington. It's a private road. They have a huge deer problem, and it's consistent with the entire neighborhood.
Every single property has
Yeah.
this gate.
So we've kind of allowed them in the past on the street, but it's not typical of
I see.
what we allow.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely obviously the precedent has been set.
Yeah.
Literally every
Everybody,
property has
yeah.
this gate or one very similar to it. So,
And you can still see through it, which is nice,
right.
because you have a beautiful view from your property out of the hills across the way.
Okay,
So I propose that we pass this as proposed with the exception that we want the fencing to match the gate
Yeah.
and the design elements.
with the,
That-
with the circles.
Yeah.
Do you want to just look at it, just so we're all on the same page, just to make sure? This one right here.
Use the four other one. Yeah,
Yeah,
this kind.
okay.
Yeah.
So we're just going to ask that you make your fencing match this.
Oh, facing match, okay.
Okay.
But facing,
Or
does
the-
the facing need to
see the
have
second
two
one?
bottom,
Well,
like,
So the
usually
lower-
the facing do not use this.
no,
uh,
just the top portion,
Just the
right?
top portion, right?
They don't need
So-
to do this.
This,
Right here.
so
This.
these were the two sorts of fencing. And
Okay.
since this one has those circles.
Oh, just to choose this one.
Okay,
to
I
use
was
it
thinking
on
you
that
were
one.
you were saying to do this.
No,
Okay.
that would be,
Okay, just
Okay.
use this kind.
I would
right?
use this one
Okay,
as
okay, sure,
opposed
sure,
to
sure.
this.
Okay,
Okay.
sure. No
And
problem.
Jeannie, you'll note that
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay.
I'll put it in.
So
Thank you very much.
approve as proposed with the lower fencing option as the fence portion of the project,
With the circles on the top.
with the circles on the top.
Perfect.
The plan, there is a sports court, it's fine too, right? The sports court?
They don't,
You don't
they
need-
don't need to deal with that. That, for you, yeah, that's fine,
it's fine, okay.
but they don't have to approve
Okay,
that.
so it's done, right? It's passed.
Almost.
Almost.
Wait for it.
We're so close. We're so close.
Almost.
Okay. So you put the motion.
Yeah, need a second.
You want a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Now we have to vote.
So we'll put it to vote.
All those in favor?
All
Aye.
those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, good luck with your date.
Now you're done.
You're welcome. Okay, we gotta let her.
Okay, you're gonna go get Jennifer?
Alrighty then. We are on to our last agenda item, 18240 Bancroft Avenue.
Okay, so as I did note in the agenda, this is a request for site development permit and a variance, and because the variance is acted on by the city council and it's associated with elements of the site development permit, both of them are going to go to the council, but you, as a commission, will be a recommending body to the council. So your action tonight will be a recommendation on both the site development permit and the variance requests. So this is again, a request for a site development permit for the construction of a new 5,900 square foot single-story home and a request for a variance to the front setback for an accessory dwelling unit, requiring it to be in the rear half of the property. The proposed accessory dwelling unit is not in the rear half of the property. What the applicant is proposing to do is utilize the existing home on the site, which is more situate in the northwest corner of the property. The property is at the corner of Bancroft and Ridgecrest.
Siri's
The-
listening to you.
Huh?
I'm sorry, my phone's
Oh.
just talking to me.
It's
Siri's
like-
talking.
Yeah, it just started.
Random.
At any rate, the existing structure was built in 1949, and having looked at some historic aerials, that area was very much developed with orchards, and then in 1949, this little house pops up, and then, for a number of years, you don't see any additional homes. You still see the orchard operations happening clearly, and then probably in the mid-60s to early 70s, you see many more homes. So this house really, I think, is that they're proposing to convert to an accessory dwelling unit is part of the history of this area and its development pattern of within the orchards and the ranch-style homes. So wanting to preserve that and continue to use it, it's obviously not large enough, but it could serve as an accessory dwelling unit by taking out, there's like a connecting wing between the main dwelling and the garage portion. So on the plans, you'll see the removal of kind of a wing that has mechanical and storage. And I didn't see any permits for the guest unit in there, but this is an old structure, so who knows. In addition to the proposal to convert that existing structure to an accessory dwelling unit, they do propose a new construction of a single-story home to the eastern side of the property, which is currently a large vacant area, which I think still had some orchard trees on it and stuff like that, that was used for a number of years by the people who lived on the site. You can see from the plans that it has kind of two wings and a central spine, which is a little taller than the wings. They also propose to convert an existing workshop on the site to a pool cabana. They are trying to minimize removal of any significant trees, so one driveway that comes in off of Bancroft to a parking court, they do propose to remove 4 of the oak trees that are along Bancroft. There are a number of oak trees along Bancroft. Those are the only trees they propose to remove. And I did get a couple people into the office wanting to look at this plan. One is someone who lives on, I think it's Hillvale or Hillcrest. I'm not sure what the name of that street is. Didn't have any issues, thought it was really nice, was very pleased that they were sticking with the single-story scale. And then another gentleman who came in, he was a little concerned about the removal of any oak trees, but, he was, if I told him if he wasn't able to make it, I'd express his thoughts that, to the extent that they could potentially minimize the removal of any trees, it would make him happy. I think he's one of the original residents along Bancroft. So, but other than that, he had no issue with the project. So again, just to reiterate, I think as far as the variance request goes, the special circumstances related to this site is first that it really does house, I think, what could be considered a historic structure given its age and, when it came to be, the typical ranch style home, as well as the fact that it is a corner lot, so to put anything in the rear half, depending on what, frontage you use, could, force it in an odd place and then cause the main structure to be built out towards the, the busier street of Ridgecrest, which many of you know is a very busy street at times. So, and as far as the new construction, it's very consistent with the mix of homes along Bancroft. You really do have a mix of homes. It's consistent with all the development standards and the other design guidelines. The other thing I wanted to mention about the accessory structure, there is one other site further east on Bancroft where a similar situation was there. There is, the original structure was forward of the lot. So same thing, they modified that structure to cut down some of the square footage so they could preserve that structure in place, and they built a new home to the rear of that site.
When was that?
That was actually in about 1999. So it's 18160. It's kind of right where the Bancroft curves and then goes back into the court area. So there's a smaller structure to the front, you know, wood siding and whatnot, and that structure was built circa 1950, so around the same era.
I had a question about you said, does the city have a policy on historical structures? This isn't considered, most cities have a policy what's considered historical and what's not.
Well, from a CEQA standard, anything 60 years old or more, if any,
Could be
that has the
preserved in some
potential to be
pretty ugly
historic, yeah.
homes. But there's nothing.
I'm almost historic.
All sadly are almost.
But yeah, you know, it's 60 years old, but we're almost, 2018, so we're almost 20 years into the new decade.
Right.
So you get anything,
But in general, we don't really have a policy of keeping homes
there are
per
general
se
plan
based on-
policies related to preservation of historic resources. Yeah, and we have we have the provisions in the Muni Code when someone does come forward. But if there was any demolition of this, I would have to, it's a potential CEQA resource, so I would have to,
So what?
CEQA, Environmental Quality Act. So the fact that they're preserving it and/or modifying it consistent with Secretary of Interior standards, we don't necessarily move forward with having to do environmental clearance on it. There have been some projects that came before you, that French Chateau one. There's an existing home on the site which is over 60 years old. They did do a historic
Yeah,
review
report
of
on this,
that.
but
and
no
found-
historic review has been
No.
done on this.
No, I mean, I've done my basic and looked
Okay.
at, I do have a couple of the aerials, if you wanted to see those.
No, thanks.
It's very
I believe
interesting.
it was there.
Tina, I have a question for you. What are we deciding tonight?
You're going to recommend you're going to recommend to the council what you think their action should be. Support of the variance, support or support of the new construction,
Okay.
or modifications thereto, or denial. It's just recommending instead of acting on the
So,
request.
Jeannie, can you read for us, or do we have somewhere that for everyone to see there's 3 criteria for a variance? You might.
No, this is what I was
Yeah,
gonna
so there's
ask.
3 criteria.
It's, in the Muni Code, it says it shall be granted only when, because of special circumstances applicable to the property, including but not limited to size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings. The strict application of the zoning ordinance deprives the property of privileges enjoyed by other property in the vicinity and under identical zoning classifications. Should they not grant this variance, they would have to demolish this building. Or add on to it, which in essence would, it's about, in its entirety, maybe a couple thousand square feet with the wing and whatnot. So it could not be used as an accessory dwelling unit without modifying it, similar to what they did down the street.
Did the applicant submit anything in writing describing the basis for why a variance is warranted here?
That, on the application,
Can we
it
read
was
that into
because of
the
that,
record?
wanting to preserve it in place.
Maybe there's somebody here to speak to that. I don't know.
Yeah, so how many, the things, you had a list of things that warranted?
Some of the things are
You had
size,
just one thing. Was there
size,
more?
shape, topography, location, surroundings,
Well, the other two on that list, the other thing is that it can't lead to future projects that will be allowed the same privilege by doing this. And then the
Like
third one
setting
didn't apply,
precedent.
like setting a precedent
Unless
that
this-
everybody that has
unless
a corner
similar
lot
special circumstances
gets to have a weird
exist.
setback and have a guest house in the front half of their property.
Right.
There are a number of, it's kind of been inconsistent how this community has dealt with that. And, I mean, you'll, up and down Saratoga Los Gatos Road, there are a number of properties that have their guest house in front of the primary structure. I found one that was granted a variance, the others didn't go through that process, so I'm not sure
Oh.
what the,
Oh, no, I was thinking of one that's
been
in
a
Los
little
Gatos.
inconsistent treatment of them. Yeah, that's why I did research. I
But a
know
lot
that
of them
other-
are really old. I mean, I've been on this commission
They-
for 7 years and we've had very few. One of them
There's
was on
two on
Bancroft.
Winchester.
Yeah, but I mean, just variances in general.
Yeah.
Though I know the one on
council-
Winchester,
Council did hear one last night and did find their way to approve it. It was a square lot, 100 by 100.
Mhm.
And the person wanted to place an accessory dwelling unit and go to 5 feet versus 6 feet.
that,
They approved it. They found that the configuration of the development on the site was what was keeping him from being able to meet the setbacks.
okay, my next question is just, both case scenarios, approved, disapproved. So if we don't approve the recommendation for a variance, then what happens?
So you're not approving anything,
Well,
you're
we're-
just
we're-
recommending. So
well,
you would
approving a
recommend to the
recommendation,
council,
yeah.
you might recommend that, you don't see the ability to make the required findings, so therefore you recommend to the council that they deny the variance. For the site development permit, they're two
They're
separate,
two separate
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
yeah, so.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay,
And
that
it's
makes
it's
sense.
purely a recommendation,
Okay.
so.
All right. Applicant?
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and speak? All righty, come on up here, state your name. Yeah, it's like we're all talking.
She may say something too, but other than that, let's take it. I think you mentioned 59, it's actually like 4,400 square feet is the new house. I think 5,900 got
I
mentioned. but-
probably included the parking.
Okay. The new house is like 4,400 square feet or so. So just in terms of the variance, Jeannie made it apparent to us during the process. We had multiple meetings with her while we were doing this. I tried to argue with her that it didn't need a variance for the sake of, it didn't seem like, to me, the intent was they don't want guest houses in front of main houses. In this case, the way the site's set up, as Bancroft is the front of it, it's on the side. It's not in front. But I understand how the code's written, so I understand why we're going through this process. The site with the existing home and the way it's been built out, I'd be curious to see those after the fact, the aerials, because I think the way we're stripping that house that's there is probably more like the original house size was, because there's add-ons, weird sort of add-ons in the back of it that we're tearing down. So if I'm guessing the original house is basically back to this 1,200 square foot, roughly what we're trying to turn into a guest house. The important thing I think is why to keep it where it's at, being on the corner, is visually for the neighborhood, the scale of it is keeping sort of the neighborhood as is with the house there. And the new house being down Bancroft, Bancroft starts sloping down, and then you sort of have a steep few feet up to the lot. So it's not as noticeable. There's so many big trees along Bancroft. Tearing that old house down and putting the new house more in the front in the face of the neighbor, it doesn't seem correct. The correct thing to do architecturally. And that half of the lot, looking down on it, I guess it would be the west end of the lot is where the current structures are. the east end of the lot's totally empty, and so it just makes sense that's where the new house would go. So I think the variances, we're talking about it basically because the code talks about it not being allowed in the front half of the lot, which it is, but it's on the side. It's not really in front of the main house, which I think was I would venture to guess would probably be the intent of what that was all about. The trees, the only tree, I mean, there's several oak trees along the front. We only want to, we may be able to get away with only taking 2 of them down. On the original application, we wrote 2 to 4 because it just, we really want to minimize that as well. But we put 4 because potentially both of them might need to come down. The 2 extras as we're grading right there. The amount of trees and the size of them there, I don't think it's going to. It's not going to look out of place because there's several other large oak trees along the front of that. Any case, I don't know that the house we try to keep it traditional design, transitional, traditional for the neighborhood. We didn't try to go too modern or anything. Try to have it be an estate feel to it, and the colors, that lighter color is kind of the main earth tone color of the home. I didn't bring the dark charcoal roofing, but you can see the pictures there. Yeah, I thought Jeannie had that. Any case, that's pretty much it. Other than any questions.
I have a question about, do I see 3 driveways?
So you do. So the reason is that the question?
Yeah,
Or?
the 3 driveways.
So the one is existing, which serves the other. I guess it would be off of Ridgecrest. Is an existing driveway, which serves that existing garage. And the idea would be that would serve that existing garage or that guest house. I think they were thinking of using that as a sports court, that area and down the line. The main house, has one driveway for guests and a private gated entrance would be to go to their garage. And the reason is we're trying to keep, again, architecturally keep the garage doors, away from right in front of your face and right in front, in the front entry of the home. So it's just more of a nicer feel having that more private. There's on that private driveway. There's an existing driveway for the neighbor that's right there. So it's. I think when it's finished out, it's going to seem very normal to have a driveway connection right next to the other one.
There's actually 4 driveways. Right?
4, did I miscount?
There's one here. There's 2 on Ridgecrest and 2 on Bank.
2 on Ridgecrest. How did I miss the other one on?
Yeah, there's a 1-car garage on the guest house.
Right, yeah, you got that one, and then this one here, up into the auto court.
Okay, did not see that one.
That's what's requiring removal of 4 trees and
Okay.
relocation of a PG&E pole.
Correct.
Okay. So the trees are just removed for grading,
Well,
for the
Yeah.
driveway
it's
and,
about a 7-foot
Yeah,
differential.
it's a-
Yeah.
I hiked up that hill.
It's pretty steep there. So like I said, I think there's only 2 that are really in the way. But I'm guessing once we grade in there, the ones nearby might have to go as well. If we could figure out how to save those back too, then we will, because they're not in the driveway. But I have a feeling in reality, when you go grading to get up and onto the lot there, it'll be difficult to save them.
And then, you have some elements straddling that entrance, right? With like some large urns or something on there, is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that was our schematic. Those are not going to be there. I mean, you look at the landscaping plan. They're more or less planners. We're going to need some sort of retaining curb there for the driveway to get up. And so our idea would be to just have sort of a concrete planter there and have some landscaping in it is the intention.
Okay, you can sit down,
Okay.
and if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to that project, come on up. Come on up and say your name.
I'm Lise Wool, and we are the neighbors directly next to my new neighbor. So the brand-new house, the back of it is along our property. And Jeannie, I guess I should have come to see you to look at the plans. I had just a couple of concerns because the back part of the house, which appears to go along a long way, I wanted to find out if there are windows or balconies along that back side of the house that would directly be looking into our yard.
Which property, are you
We're at
immediately?
18220.
The east,
East side.
Oh,
The one
this
with
one
the
here.
gate.
Okay, with the black dog?
That's Blaze.
Yeah, okay.
And I apologize, I did not come to the office to look at the plans, but as, certainly, he has a right to build whatever home he wants, but as it will be fairly impactful to us, I did want to understand. I'm assuming that all of the proper surveys were done so that the house is, has exactly the setback it needs to have.
Do you want to
May I?
look?
Let's see
can
what we
take a
have, yeah.
Minute to look at.
I think she wants,
I think it's on A50, the east.
So you're on Bancroft on the left?
back elevation, is that
So
it?
I'm to the left of your driveway.
Okay.
We're your neighbors,
Okay, cool.
direct neighbors. So this is. So you're here.
It's on A50.
So this is the.
Can I add something real quick, because it's.
Attention here. This is. Oh, got it, okay. This is all single story. Okay. Well, the windows are gonna be, and this is like that.
So this is what she's looking at, right?
Exactly.
I think it's actually, I mean, there's nothing going on back there, so. Rendering of the
So there's, again, those would. So this is. This is at 20. Or I can kind of tear off this. That's the existing home. This is Bancroft. Keeping it consistent and so you'll see some of the square. So this will be long. This is the garage portion where you see. This is that coming out. The north elevation is this is the Bancroft side, so this is where you have the wood fireplace and which may have been offered because of the walkway going up and the door going there. And then there was a permit to come and enter. I think they did some. They're not changing anything.
Okay, I hate to cut this short, but everyone's supposed to get 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
I am very glad that you could come in and look at it. So does you want to come?
All I was going to say is.
Well, you have to come up here.
Sorry.
All I was going to let you know was our intention was to have some landscaping screening over there as well for both, for some privacy both ways.
Well, we'll chat with them. The home looks beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, back to us.
So I think the home is beautiful. I don't have any issue with our traditional role in evaluating this property. I do have an issue with the variance that we're being asked to make a recommendation about. I don't think we have sufficient information to assess and make such a recommendation. And I'm also somewhat bothered by the appearance of multiple driveways on Ridgecrest to effectively service this, what will be a guest house in the existing property. Busy street, multiple driveways along Ridgecrest I think are problematic. To the extent that the variance necessitates a driveway there, recommendation to the council about it, mine would be to pass, deny the variance for that reason. But I'll open everyone else's thoughts.
Okay, my thoughts are, I agree, the house is beautiful. I don't feel like trying to justify keeping an old ranch house fits our historical, we don't really have a historical precedent in our city for something like that. And to keep it is more just justifying to keep that place that it serves. And I feel like it just doesn't fit with what a variance should be, and they should be expected to keep the same rules that as everybody else. Otherwise, it's going to open up a can of worms on everybody with the corner lot being able to justify having their guest house in the front half of the property. So I can support the house. I can't support the variance is how I feel about it.
Is this really a precedent setting? I mean, considering there's a house already there, it's not that someone's building it from scratch. Is it a precedent setting
Yes, in my opinion.
that someone could come up and then say, well, I want to put a totally new structure right here and I want it in front of my house? Is that, like, is this a variance because there's already something there? Or would it also cover,
again,
it's an empty lot, we're taking everything down and we want to put a new,
Staff's analysis and recommendation based on that is that it's an existing home built in 1949, which is a ranch style, which is, whether or not some might feel that that's historic. I think in the context of Monte Sereno and the agricultural past and its rural character is very much, I think, part of its history. Very few of those left, and people willing to preserve them. It is in an existing location. This is a corner lot, which sometimes causes property owners to struggle with meeting some of the development standards that otherwise they could meet because, again, regardless of which frontage you use, it's going to, it sometimes creates a hardship for those properties. So that's why, in staff's opinion, given that it's an existing structure, given its age and potential historic nature, and given that this is a corner lot, that staff's opinion is that there are the special circumstances. Those are the special circumstances present to be able to make the findings necessary to grant a variance. That's the only way I can answer your question.
okay.
I'm having trouble seeing why they couldn't put the guest house back kind of where the garage is. There's totally room there. There's access already there. It's super easy to do. It meets the rear half of the property. So I don't see a extenuating or special circumstance here. I'm struggling with that. I mean, yeah, there's an old house there. I'm sure it'd be nice to keep it. But we're flipping the thing around. We're making Bancroft the entrance now, so that now becomes the front property line. It kind of has to adhere to the the guidelines for accessory structures being behind, in the back half of the lot. Just not seeing any value in that house. I mean, yeah, it's old, but it's not like some spectacular piece of architecture.
No, it's not. I live next to this. This is nothing spectacular, yeah.
So I'm just really struggling with seeing the special circumstances here.
The other thing I see too is the style of the ranch historical house doesn't go with the architecture of what they're doing with the rest of the property. I mean, everything's a little more transitional in style, more modern and updated. So I don't see a justification in any way for keeping it. I mean, it's going to appear like it's a separate lot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Kind of confused. What are we varying?
Again, to clarify, in our hang on. The way we do our meetings here is that, did you close the public hearing?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yes,
you may
I did.
want to-
I did.
okay.
I closed the public hearing.
So this is where the commission will discuss their thoughts, and I can help them. Again, to clarify that in our Muni code right now, there's actually some inconsistency also, which, in the future, as staff, I'll have to work on clearing that up. There's one section that says that an accessory structure cannot be in the front yard. And we define the front yard as a couple different ways. We say front yard as opposed to front setback. We also define front yard as you take the building line and whatever is before that. So there's inconsistency there. And then there's also a provision which says in the side setback section that accessory structures must be in the rear half of the property, which again, why are we doing a front setback in the side setback section of the development standard? So, which may be why there's some inconsistent, I think, treatment of these citywide, and I, quite honestly, there's 2 or 3 properties on Winchester that have brand new accessory dwelling units that are in the front half of the property that are brand new construction. There is the first property here on Saratoga Los Gatos Road, brand new accessory structure in the front half of the property. So there's some inconsistencies. So I, quite honestly, I'm taking the conservative approach and causing them to go through a variance process. Because again, in staff's opinion, corner properties sometimes do create special circumstances. Existing resources on properties do create special circumstances, whether it be a natural resource, whether it be a built resource. So again, I hate to say this on the record, but there's a variety of ways in which the same circumstance has been dealt with in the city, and I've done a lot of research, and I've scratched my head as to why I found one other variance for an accessory dwelling unit in the front half of the property. All the others that are out there, which are newer construction,
Never came
I
up?
can't, and I don't. Again, only having been here a year and a half, there's no record as to how it was. No variance was requested, just through a site development permit.
This is
Or a
difficult.
special use
This
permit.
is difficult for us. I mean, if
It is.
there's a rule in place and no one pays attention to it,
So I'm saying the
Why
rule
hold
in
these
place
people to
is
it
it
versus
has
anybody
to,
else?
again, I'm taking the conservative approach, saying the most conservative regulation there is that an accessory dwelling unit has to be in the rear half of the property. Okay, I'm doing the worst case scenario,
that's in the books. That's written down.
as well as other ones that conflict with that.
Say the front setback is
So,
what you're saying. I have a
yeah.
question too, when you're referring to staff, is the city manager taking a look? Can you define staff? Is that just you, or is it the city manager's taking a look at this?
Oh, I've discussed this with
And,
city manager and attorney, and again,
okay,
I've tried to get historical references to how did these things happen.
okay.
It's
Well,
I don't know.
Can
So
we punt on the variance?
Well, we have to give a recommendation.
You guys
but
can,
We don't have to decide.
yeah, recommendation, and, if the recommendation is, we don't feel comfortable given the city's past treatment of these, you can just kind of,
I mean, I don't think it's fair to hold this property owner to a standard that has been used or ignored in the past multiple times. And so that's what we're up against here.
Well, I don't know that, I don't believe we have enough information to evaluate the variance, period.
That's out of our,
It's,
it's
It's
out of
not
our.
our job
I
description.
understand Jeannie's point, but we haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't assessed those other properties. I don't know
Yeah.
how many there are. I don't know.
that's not really okay.
So
So
maybe,
let's take it out of that. I mean, that was just information. In looking at this project, knowing that the required findings are that there needs to be some special circumstances attributed to this, there could be 12 other properties citywide. It doesn't mean this is the only property. Because, yeah, there will be other properties potentially that have similar special circumstances. It is true that some cities don't do them that often. You know, on average, 1 to 2 variances a year I've seen in this city. Sometimes if you see that a community is doing variances and they're kind of stretching the rules, that's really indicative of where they have to change the rules.
Sounds like
So again, in this one, for me, I'm looking at it, and again, this is staff's opinion. You guys can have your own, but again, there are special circumstances where if there's a resource, and that resource, whether it be a natural resource, a huge oak tree, a rock outcropping, a stream, which is forcing development to, set far off it. There are a lot of properties that have streams. So there might be a lot of properties that have that same special circumstance.
I understand special
So in this
circumstance,
case,
yeah.
like I said, from staff's opinion, one of the special circumstances is the potential historic nature. And historic could be, doesn't have to be architectural. It could be just the fact that it's a resource that was built at a time that is, reflective of that. So again, in my opinion, that's something that, is a great potential. A lot of these original orchard homes are not distinctive. They're pretty vernacular. But that doesn't mean there isn't some potential historic. Again, a corner property, although it's regular in shape, a lot of times can present, I think, some challenges in meeting some of these setback standards, especially when it comes to accessory structures, because you're kind of forcing them back in a single corner because you've got 2 frontages that you're having to deal with. So that's really where staff's position is. And given that, you can listen to that and decide whether or not you feel that those do meet the special circumstance criteria.
So do we need to do them in tandem, the site development permit and the variance?
They're 2 separate actions.
Separate
Yes,
actions.
2 separate recommendations.
So we can recommend, but we can't vote on either one. We can't.
Well, no,
You're
you
voting
could've-
on a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're gonna move a recommendation
Okay.
on the site development permit. You're gonna move a recommendation on the variance. And there'll be 2 separate
On
and
the
distinct.
variance recommendation.
All you're doing tonight is, and I know you're typically not in this position because we don't have a lot of them anymore. Actions that go before council coupled with another is, we move that we recommend to the city council, to take this action on this application. So that's what
Well,
your
then,
motions would
Not to
be.
complicate matters, but
But let's do
just,
it anyway.
but let me just throw this out there. If the variance is not adopted, doesn't that force the applicant to resubmit, and we're gonna be in front of them
No.
again, looking at a different site and architecture plan?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
What do you mean not
But
necessarily?
it's up to them.
Well, that could eliminate
So I
that
wouldn't,
structure.
yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. Whatever the final outcome of the council is, will determine
What they
what
can
the
do.
project is that the applicant. So you don't have to try and foresee what that might be
Okay,
and worry about that.
okay.
Okay, should we get a feel where we are?
Yeah.
So do a motion on the,
Well, yeah, do you want to make a motion and then we'll just vote?
yeah, there's 2 motions, we're gonna do 2 separate
Two
motions.
separate
The
ones.
first motion is to approve the site development plan.
So how can you do that?
So
Well,
that's
so-
assuming the
Okay,
variance.
so-
Yeah, it does.
Let me also clarify another thing. Actually, the fact that it's an accessory dwelling unit, well, look at the hand. Sorry.
Well, actually,
Look at the hand.
those don't have.
You actually don't have any design review purview over accessory dwelling units. So, again, So the site development permit isn't dependent on that per se, okay?
So we can just
Okay.
word
That
it that
answers
we
my
So-
approve that?
question.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not under our
Yeah.
review.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. So I'll make a motion that we approve the site development permit for the new construction.
I
Okay.
second.
Vote.
Vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was
That was the
for,
easy part.
that was
Yeah, that's the easy part.
So your vote, just to reiterate, is to recommend that the city council approve the site development permit as, for the,
For the house.
as proposed.
For the
Yeah.
new construction.
For the new construction, yeah.
construction, for the
Yes.
main dwelling.
Well,
The main
for what,
dwelling unit.
what is under the site development
Yes.
permit
Okay.
purview.
Okay, so now for the hard part.
Um,
I am not in favor of
okay,
recommending the variance.
Do you want to?
Make a motion
Make
that.
a motion that we do not, that
Okay.
we do
I-
not, that we,
I make a motion, and I'll just state for the record, I don't find that it has any, I don't see the special circumstances. So, based on the fact that I don't see the special circumstances within this site, I recommend that we don't approve recommendation to the city council for the variance.
So your motion is to.
Why don't you do it?
So
You're the
The motion
attorney.
is to deny a recommendation
Yeah.
for
Recommendation.
adoption of a variance.
Yeah.
So your motion is to recommend to the city council denial of the requested variance based on
Not finding
the
special.
inability to make the required findings to
Yes.
grant a variance.
Yes,
Is that what you like to say?
that was
Okay.
Exactly what she
excellent, yeah.
Is it, who seconded that?
Nobody yet.
Oh.
Well, I just want to, well,
I think once the motion's on the floor,
yeah,
it's a,
that's right, I'm done talking.
I'll second that motion.
okay, all those in favor of,
Can you
Didn't
reword the
rec-
wording of the motion, restate the
Yeah,
wording
so
of
we
the
know what
motion?
we're voting on.
So, okay, I don't have a law degree,
So I
but
know what I'm
I've been
voting on
sitting
here.
at these
do.
long
I
enough,
know what it is.
so typically you might say that, you make a motion to recommend that the city council deny the requested variance based on your, as a commission, inability to make the required findings of special circumstances in this case.
And I would like to add more to that. And the city's history of not following its own guidelines.
That's not part of the
Yeah,
variance
say that.
but
findings.
they'll listen to our whole thing.
I don't think you want to tell the council that after last night,
No, but they need to.
so.
I think we should say, and the lack of sufficient information to be able to evaluate the basis for granting a variance. I don't think we have enough information here
On this property itself?
on this
On the
property
process-
and the variance and what special findings need to be made, what history exists in the city with respect to similar variances. I know you discount that, but I think
No,
that's,
I'm not
in fairness to the
discounting it.
applicant, I think that's important. If we're making a recommendation, that's why I asked you if we can punt this, because I really think this is within the city council's purview and not necessarily.
Well, we
Well,
kind of are.
it is. They're going to
They can
make
do
the
whatever they
decision.
want,
But they
right?
do, in their municipal code, respect that if it's associated with a site development permit, that they're going to take the site development permit also, but they want to see a recommendation. So it's really kind of, respecting the commission's position of design review. So that's why, the recommendation is for both of them. So, you're not making the decision. It is going to be the decision of the council. But in the Muni Code, they want to see you, in this instance, as a recommending body.
okay, so would you please read the motion or say the motion one more time and we
Okay.
will vote?
So it would be to recommend that the city council deny the requested variance on the grounds that you as a commission do not find special circumstances associated with this property, which is required to grant a variance.
Okay, all those in favor of
The motion.
the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Honestly,
We opened it up so they can,
we effectively funded.
So let me,
Yeah,
let me
this
just,
goes
so let me
down-
just clarify the vote.
Okay.
That there were 2 commissioners that were in favor of recommending that the council deny it, and there were 2 commissioners that were opposed to that recommendation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
That was an inadvertent, we didn't even mean that, and it happened.
no, I think that's good, because then
So
it
given
leaves
that-
it totally open for
Given that there
you.
wasn't a quorum,
There wasn't.
on that vote, I'll explain it to you later. Talk to the hand.
Okay, that
And
concludes,
and just to let you know, as part of the report that goes to council, what has occurred at this meeting and your discussion and your vote will be included as part of that report to them in detail,
okay.
not
So-
just your vote.
This is the end of the meeting. I close the meeting.
Adjourned.
Adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.